Papers on Off the Ball.
In association with the Air Sport app, allowing you to cast your favourite sporting action from your tablet or mobile phone straight to your TV.
So we have Marie Crowe, sports journalist, here in the studio, and Brendan O'Brien from the Irish Examiner here as well. We are streaming as ever, so you can watch as well as listen if you're at home and fancy looking in on us. I'll hold up the headlines firstly for you. So it's a lot of Manchester derby pictures on the front pages, as you can imagine. The Sunday Times have the one that got away. City reject. Pogba hits double as United come from 2-0 down to win 3-2 and deny Pep title coronation. And the bottom right hand story, interestingly, Sam Allardyce, it seems things are so miserable at Everton, he's been linked with the West Brom vacancy. That's the front page of the Sunday Times. The Mail then have Rory McIlroy fisting after he chipped in on the 8th for that crucial eagle yesterday at Augusta. On the march, McIlroy zeroes in on career Grand Slam after keeping the heat on Reed with stunning third round. Reed leads by 3 as we head into the final round this evening. We have then the Sunday World, and again it's Manchester. Blue Goons, champions-elect, lose 2-goal lead as United players respond to Jose Clown's jibe. Jose telling them at half-time they didn't want to be clowns looking on, crying, as Manchester City lifted the title. Man City 2, Man United 3. I'm sure you caught the result at this stage. Sunday Mirror Sport then again has Rory in the top right corner. Red hot roar keeps pace with Reed at Augusta. And beneath that, Pog of War, United star stuns City to crash the Etihad title party. But it's not all bad for Pep as he lands a stunning £20 million a year new deal, making him the best paid manager in the world. The Star then, I'll give the front page miss. Pogba and Chris ruin City's title party with stunning second half derby raid. Small miracle is the headline there. Conor McGregor is on the front page of the Sun. Mac flying home. It's a picture of McGregor leaving, I think either the court or prison. Either way, I've got bail, let's bail. Conor to fight again soon, they say. That's the front page of the Sun. And then the back page is City left Eddie mad. Epic Jose comeback, KOs Pep title bash. And then very finally, Sunday Independent. Front page here as we rustle it around. McIlroy stays cool to maintain heat on Reed. And party pooper, Pep stunned as Pogba double sinks City. They are your front pages. Marie and Brennan, thanks very much for coming in.
No problem.
Ordinarily, you'd have to start with the Masters. You would have to start with the Masters and nothing else. But we all came in and we all said that the piece with Damien Duff and Paul Rowan in the Sunday Times would warm your heart.
Definitely.
It's fantastically good. Lean into your microphones there and do me a favour. So, Damien Duff, Paul Rowan, Sunday Times. Why is it so good?
Well, first of all, the intro. I felt like I was actually there, standing outside Roadstone at 5:45 a.m. and that it was cold and it was dark and I was right in the story with Paul Rowan. So he sucked me in from the very start. Just the intro, just the way he describes how, like, the little details that Damien Duff has to do, turning on the floodlights at that early in the morning, and then he goes straight into an entertaining line about Damien Duff watching his under-15s on holidays because there's cameras in the floodlights that he's just turned on. He's able to see it and his wife is getting annoyed. So straight away we're like, oh yeah, that's the Damien Duff, the obsessed guy that we all know and that we all love. And then just the whole article just details all these really nice little anecdotes, just describing how much he loves the game, how much he loves the team, how obsessed he is with it, and just all the little things that he does that we wouldn't know about. Like, first of all, I expected him to get paid, but he doesn't get paid. I thought he might get some sort of allowance. He doesn't get anything. He washes the bibs. He says he loves his team. Just the obsession and just the love of the game. Like, it's all there.
Yeah.
Made me smile this morning.
Yeah, and even the little bit that stood out for me was he's buying the croissants and protein bars at a petrol station the night before to distribute.
Yeah,
really good stuff. And for a guy who famously was called Rip Van Winkle, who loved his sleep so much, he was in bed at midnight the night before because he was looking over tape or something, and up at 5:45 in the morning or 4:45 in the morning. But you get the sense of a guy who still isn't quite sure of where he's kind of going to go. He's talking about, does he take his pro licence? But he thinks maybe he's found his level, maybe teaching kids is the thing he wants to do. And it seems kind of fitting to me. We talk about Duffer, and even the name Duffer gives a sense of warmth and cuddliness, you know. But he's kind of portrayed as among the last of the street footballers, and here he is kind of, you know, looking after the kids who in our generation might have been playing on the street, and he's trying to get the best out of them. And again as well, for a guy who maybe doesn't know exactly where he fits, Paul portrays it very well. You know, the two Tala boys are in the south of France and India, and the Ballyboden lad is in Tala doing his thing, and Paul picks up Duffer's very, very well disguised bit of humour very well as well. And he even says at one point as well that Paul says he's not a League of Ireland fan.
Yeah, that was
he's
really
working for Shamrock Rovers. He's not there for the League of Ireland. He's not a zealot who's come home to kind of, you know, he's not St. Patrick coming over to banish the snakes. He's just a guy doing his thing, and it happens to be Shamrock Rovers. So it's a wonderful piece, wonderfully written, wonderful topic on a guy who is really, really interesting.
And then I think as well, if you kind of just strip back all those bits about Duff, like you get a little bit of an insight into his philosophy about coaching as well, which is quite interesting because it's quite a divisive one as well. Like training kids like 5 times a week, really early in the morning, like goes against a lot of people's beliefs when you think about burnout and you know, all the other things that kids have to do. I'd like to know actually if his under 15s are specialised just in football now. Do any of them play Gaelic? Do any of them play rugby? Does he allow that? Like just at that age, it's such a it's such a hot topic at the moment. At 15, do you specialise then on your sport? Does it? If you do that, like are you taking away the joy from the game a little bit? Like we don't get that, which I would like to see a little bit, but we do get to hear about why he wants them to train so much and what he thinks he needs his players to do to make it, and how he runs his team like a Premier League academy.
He's a great line there which sums that up. He's talking about, you know, is more or is less more. He says one of us is wrong and it's not me. He real Duffer stuff, isn't it?
Like that's his way, that's how he's doing it. He doesn't care what anyone says. Like no one's going to argue the toss with him, but it'll be interesting to see how it develops. I think like after reading this, I'm definitely going to be following the under 15 league now just to see how they get on.
Doing.
The
picture's great as well. Like I mean, Paul Rowan's obviously gone to the early morning training session and brought a photographer, and there's great pictures of him with the kids, and also just one of him standing with the ball, and the floodlights are there and you can see it's kind of atmospheric and foggy. The headline is Duffer, the fire burns deep inside. On that whole training philosophy he has, so he says that he's lucky he can do it full time effectively because he doesn't have a full time job. So 5 sessions a week, mostly in the evenings, sometimes in the mornings, and then a game at the weekend. Says, my idea, let them train as much as we can. It's unheard of in this country, even at senior level, but they need it. I run it like a Premier League academy. We are hard on them, rightly or wrongly. I've seen presentations in the past few years by people here to under 15 squads where they say train for 40 minutes, take a day off, do an hour there. These people are telling kids to train less, and I want them to train twice as much. One of us is wrong. It's not me. He's in no doubt. It's like this is how you do it.
It's like a little test case, and you know, it's not,
because we haven't had that in this country.
And he says here, which just backs it up again. Like, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I don't think anybody else in this country can teach kids a football education and what it takes to become a player better than myself and my staff.
The problem is not a problem, but one thing to remember is this is one group of under 15 kids. This could be a very exceptional group anyway. It could be a normal. Do you know what I mean? But people will read that, and now, like you say, Marie, you'll be thinking, I'm going to keep an eye on them. And if I see Shamrock Rovers under 15s this year, and then 16s, 17s, 18s, how is this crop of players doing? But it is important to remember it's one crop of players that made it very good.
And also, interestingly, like, he's not saying here that like nothing would make him happier than for them to win the league. He's saying nothing would make me happier than to see one of them go on and have a career. Which is
it does seem like he's actually trying. It's a Premier League academy almost, and he's trying to produce an Irish international here. That seems to be the aim. But it is, like, it's really brilliantly written. Even the line that sort of stays with you is Duffer. It's hard not to call him Duffer. Duff walking around, turning on the floodlights, and slowly does it one floodlight after another. How you can see the floodlights flicking on slowly at first. It's beautifully done. Before the dawn on Tuesday morning, it was foggy and wet as Duff paced out on the 4G pitch and placed down his cones. As he disappeared into the mist at the far end of the pitch, it was difficult not to forget he could still be in Melbourne, where he finished his playing career, eating seafood and enjoying the 25-degree heat. And then you just get, this just sounds like Damien Duff, and it should, because it is, but it's a great line. If I didn't have kids, I would be there now in Melbourne. The lifestyle was great. Then a pause. I hate that phrase, if I didn't have kids. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. We came home because we wanted to bring them up in Ireland with our parents. I have 2 kids at home and 17 kids here. I literally love my under 15s.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, like he's saying all the coaches there, it's his first group.
Yeah.
I guess they're slagging him, saying he's going to be devastated when he has to pass them on.
Yeah, and he said that himself in the piece, you know, and will he feel the same about every group? Probably not. They'll always be...
These are going to be special.
Your first love.
Your first love.
The deepest cut, Brendan, that's what they say. But there's just something magical about the thought of Damien Duff, one of our greatest ever players, multi-millionaire, played for the biggest managers, getting up at 4 a.m. to coach these kids just because he likes it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely magic.
Imagine how inspiring that is for those kids as well. Like you're never going to say to your mum and dad, look, I don't feel like going this morning. Like you're always going to be at training no matter what.
Yeah, what drills he uses, the ones he learned from Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
Pretty good credentials.
Yeah, you know.
There's no kids going, why are we doing this? I would think. So it's brilliant. It just kind of, we're
such a descriptive piece, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's
really good.
I feel like I was out there.
Yeah, because I think I have read like other pieces about Damien Duff and like him coaching and that, but I've never read anything that really captures what he does and what he's about and what his philosophy is, and even like gives you a little insight to him not knowing exactly where he's going to.
Yeah.
Well, it's the details, I suppose. Like great writing is almost show and don't tell, and there's just something like you mentioned it, Brennan, when a breathless session ends, he distributes breakfast from a paper bag, protein bars, pastries, which he got at the garage a night before. That says a billion different things about him, doesn't it?
You can picture it.
You can, and you can imagine him thinking of it, right? I need to do this, I need to do that. Like, you know, I have to get these from my special 17s or 17, 15s.
I like there's a few pastries in there as well.
Yeah. That kind of, you know, struck a strange tone. Pastries, really? Is that...
That's probably for him.
Yeah.
So it's really good. It'd be interesting to see what he does. I mean, he's done his B and his A, and he's not sure. He's half thinking this might just be...
Yeah, well, he's young as well, you know. Like, he's got a whole career ahead of him doing something else. It'll just be... it'll be fascinating to see what...
I think part of it, this level suits him. I mean, that's a great interview and he's a great interviewee, but he doesn't really like that side of it. Could you see Damien Duffer being a Premier League manager or... The
press conferences.
It's...
But the other side of it is, like, he is, like, very competitive. And, like, if you've made it in the Premier League, you clearly push yourself as far as you can. And there's probably be only a certain amount of time that you can keep doing the same thing without wanting to challenge yourself. If you're that type of person, if you're an athlete and a competitor, you're eventually going to probably drift back into that again and want to go on to try and achieve something.
I can't think the thought of coaching the national underage side hasn't crossed his head on one of those morning drives. Can't think. And I mean, he'd only have to phone up the FAI and they'd be delighted to have him. It just shows as well the value of, like, I mean, I often think it here as well. We bring guests into this very surreal environment where there's cameras and lights and microphones, and quite often Duff is interviewed when it's like, you know, some promotional thing and there's 15 journalists sitting around him.
God, he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. You get great stuff when you just get to spend a morning with someone on your own and blend into the background. Like that is,
and you go into their environment where they're comfortable and it's on their terms and they want you there, and they appreciate as well, I find, that you've gone to the effort to going to the place where they are. And then, like, they almost feel, when you do interviews like that, if you go to someone's home or, you know, someone's place of work, they almost feel a little bit of a responsibility to give you something because you've made that effort. And, like, when I go and do interviews where I am in the interviewee's environment, they'll always say, did you get enough there now? Whereas I'll never get that in a press conference. No one will ever say, did you get enough there now? So...
I mean, every journalist would love to do it. I guess I would just assume if you asked Damien Duff to let you do it, he'd say no. But he seems to have agreed to this, so there you go.
I wonder how many times he had to ask.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You know, I don't know. I'd like to know that, but it's well worth it anyway.
Yeah, no, it's really good. So that's Damien Duff, Sunday Times with Paul Rowan, page 7. To the Masters then. There's lots of stuff in the Masters. Dermot Gillees, Paul Kimmage, David Walsh, Derek Lawrenson in the Daily Mail, or the Mail on Sunday rather. Rory McIlroy is on the precipice of a career Grand Slam, which instantly puts him in the conversation as one of the all-time great players in the game. Saracen, Hogan, Player, Nicholas and Woods are the only 5 who've managed the career Grand Slam. You kind of forget how monumental it would be. So Dermot Gillees has a good piece on page 8 of the Sunday Independent. The Masters is as much about the losers quite often as as the winners. And Gillees remembers 96, Brendan?
Yeah, he's talking about you know, every journalist's dream scenario turning into a nightmare, and you know, how often in Dermot's long and storied career could he have had a situation where he basically had his piece written on the Sunday morning of the Masters? Greg Norman, 5 or 6 shots ahead. History is written. He's written his own little piece, and he paints a very vivid description.
He's rubbing his hands in glee,
bounding out onto the course.
Skips, I think.
Skips out onto the course, only for the unfolding horror of Norman's collapse and Nick Faldo inextricably reeling him in, and you know, realisation dawns with Dermot. Oh my God, this is about to turn. I have to rewrite everything. 1,300 words of his finest prose down the toilet.
It's probably a trudge back to the media centre halfway through that round.
I'd say it's a good sprint. I don't know what age Dermot was then. I'd say it was a good sprint, and you know, a hot, humid afternoon in Augusta National as well. But like you say, Joe, I mean, he goes on about, like you say, the Masters. For some reason, we seem to remember the losers more from the Masters as opposed to any other golf tournament. And he actually has a line in that. He says, none of the other majors seem to have inflicted such scars, except possibly the 70 Open Championship loss for Doug Sanders at St Andrews. But then he says, you don't hear of Arnold Palmer's 3 second place finishes in the PGA Championship, which denied him the career Grand Slam. So this is the same thing we're talking about. But because it's the PGA, which is obviously the 4th major, it doesn't get the same kind of headlines, or the 4 runner-up finishes, which had left Sam Snead unfulfilled in the US Open, which I wasn't aware of. Didn't dawn on me. But you remember Greg Norman, you remember Rory McIlroy, and you remember all these guys.
I think as well, it's because when you see them in the situation and they're like broken, a lot of us could relate to maybe not being the overachiever of going on to win the Masters. Like us people sitting at home watching the TV can go, I'd probably do what McIlroy did there and fold. So, you know, those memories stay with us because we could relate to those situations a lot more than we could ever relate to maybe putting on a green jacket and going out and doing something unbelievable on a sports field and achieving something like that. But I was really interested in the bit he had about Norman, and that a close confidant had spoken to the Associated Press and said it kills him that he can't go into the champions locker room at Augusta National. It kills him that he can't go to the champions dinner. It kills him that Nick Faldo can play in the Masters for the rest of his life and he can't. It kills him that he does not have that green jacket. Like, can you just imagine?
Like, this is Greg Norman with 500 million in the bank, an empire, and that was so a close confidant said that about Norman. I'd say he's still not over it. I'd say he finds this time of year
painful.
The champions dinner must kill him, because I guess no other major celebrates its champions so amazingly. You get a ticket for life. You get to come back, like you see Sandy Lyle stinking the joint up and happy out.
It's like the most exclusive club, and he came so close, like knocking on the door and like, you know, a foot in the door almost, and then gone, and like you're never going to get into that club now. And Galeese mentions, and Dermot was in studio a couple of weeks ago and reminded us of this as well, where in '99, Alathabal won his second green jacket. Norman was paired with him, and Maria shot a very ordinary 71 to win the Masters that day, and Norman's attitude was, God, is that it? Like, you just did something so mundane as opposed to this what Dermot calls an eye-catching spectacle delivering a splendid prize. He just couldn't get over his head that the Alathabal 71 was almost ordinary.
But that's the thing about the Masters as well. We've heard it with Mickelson, McIlroy. Patrick Reed was talking about it this week, how his wife was telling him, take the 3 wood off the first, take the 3 wood, get rid of the driver, and he said, what did he do this week? He hit the 3 wood off the first and he nailed it, and he said, lesson here is listen to your wife. You know, but it fits in with everything we know about the Masters. Mickelson cracked it when he kind of reined himself in. McIlroy has spoken about it, and with Norman as well. I mean, that's the tragedy of it, that a guy who was such a flamboyant golfer, who did it the way he did, powered through tournaments, could not get it done. It's like Jimmy White with the World Snooker Championship. It breaks your heart as purely as a fan that, you know, like he says, there's this crushing realisation. You mean I have to go against my instincts and my talent to win the thing? It seems like it's sport mocking you.
Counterintuitive,
It is.
This part as well, as part of my doomed Norman piece of 96, I noted that he had shown up for every one of his 51 second place press conferences during his career up to that point. You know, it was just...
That's a good line, isn't it?
We'll take a very short break. We'll re-pick up some of the Masters stuff. There's a really interesting piece on Tiger Woods. Paul Kimmage has been thinking about him this week. Derek Lawrenson in the Mail. And then there's other stuff to get to. Conor McGregor doesn't really feature in the sports pages. He's in a few of the main sections. We'll talk about the Republic of Ireland women's team, who are hunting European qualification. There's Kilkenny Tipperary. And it turns out Marie Crowe was amongst the Liverpool fans throwing things at the Manchester City bus during the week. So we're back in a second. Allegedly.
The Sunday Papers on Off the Ball.
In association with the Air Sport app, allowing you to cast your favourite sporting action from your tablet or mobile phone straight to your TV.
Down to business.
Winning Back the High Street is travelling up the M1 to the border town of Dundalk on Saturday, April 14th as we broadcast live from the Imperial Hotel. I'll be talking to local businesses about some of the town's challenges as well as some of the opportunities that might come out of Brexit. I'll be getting a sense of the business vibe in the county of Louth and heading out to Carlingford, and there'll be a few surprises along the way, plus some live Louth music. Tickets are free but limited, so if you want to come along, simply go to newstalk.com/events.
Down to business.
Sponsored by Flowgas.
With Winning Back the High Street, live from the Imperial Dundalk on April 14th.
On News Talk.
Hope to see you there.
Are we nearly there yet? I need the loo. Ugh, those cows smell. Connor licked me. She pinched me. Stop looking out of my window. This crayon tastes funny.
Let's face it, we've all been on one of those long car journeys with the kids. But the good news is, with Sky Q, they can watch recordings anywhere. So you can let Peppa Pig do the hard work for a change. Sky Q, the next generation box.
Requires multi-screen subscription. Save selected recordings from last 90 days to compatible device connected to home broadband.
You in the blue hoodie, you are trespassing on private property. Leave this area immediately.
You've just heard a crime being prevented. Would you like this peace of mind for your business? Netwatch, leaders in visual monitoring, will prevent crime in your business. Upgrade to Netwatch Managed Service for security that's a whole lot smarter with no upfront capital cost. What's more, you can trade in your old security system. Find out more at netwatchsystem.com or local 1890 457 025. Netwatch, creating a fearless environment.
Freshening up your home this weekend? Do it for less at B&Q with Dulux 5 litre standard coloured emulsion down from €35 to just €30. Dial roller set just €4 and 200 millilitre polyfiller only €5. So for low prices on paint project essentials, you can do it when you B&Q it.
On Ireland's majestic Donegal coast sits one of the most breathtaking courses in all of Ireland, Ballyliffin. This July, be there for a 5-day festival of world-class sport, delicious local food and drink, and unmissable live music. It could be the perfect day out or your best ever weekend in the coolest place on earth. From 4th to 8th of July, be at Ballyliffin, the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open. Tickets on sale now at DubaiDutyFreeIrishOpen.com.
What is the future for men and for masculinity? In this week's Sunday Independent, as we continue to grapple with the aftermath of the Belfast rape trial, world-renowned author Steve Biddulph writes about how we can create a new Irish maleness. Meanwhile, in Life, Talia Heffernan on coping with body dysmorphia, plus Mary Kennedy brings love to Russia. The Sunday Independent, the complete read.
At Bruce Betting, we're celebrating 40 years as one of Ireland's leading bookmakers with the launch of our brand new website and iOS app. Packed with features and easy to use, the new Bruce Betting app includes ACCA insurance, cash out and live casino. Bruce Betting, giving you more. In store, online and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly.
The Sunday Papers on Off the Ball.
In association with Air. Watch every UEFA Champions League and Europa League game on the Air Sport Pack.
This is News Talk.
Welcome back. We're going through the Sunday Papers with Marie Crowe and Brendan O'Brien. We're midway through looking at the Masters coverage where, as Derek Lawrenson writes in the Mail on Sunday, Gene Saracen, Ben Hogan, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, ... Rory McIlroy. That's the company he would be joining, and just the thought must be enough to give any golf fan from these shores goosebumps. Masters Sunday is a nightmare for the Sunday Papers. It's the worst Sunday of the year because it's such a big story, and like McIlroy and Reid were in the second and last groups respectively last night. So how do you pull the trigger on a piece of any kind of substance or that's different? Tiger Woods at least bowed out early in a way, so it allowed you to frame a piece around Woods. Paul Kimmage has done that in the Sunday Independent. Like, there's loads in it, and some of it's new and some of it people will be familiar with. There was a fantastic, because there's a new book out about Woods at the moment. Yeah. There was just like the standout quote was something Ernie Els said that I had never. This had passed me by before, and I guess it makes sense of the entire piece in a way. It starts off with Kimmage on his first Masters trip in 1997, seeing Woods for the first time, seeing just how phenomenal he was, hitting a wedge into the 15th, the par 5 15th, and then we skip to the DUI this year, and just the mugshot, the horrible mugshot of Woods. And it skips ahead back and forth, the fame he found hanging out with Michael Jordan. And post-scandal, there was something that Ernie Els said to Tom Callahan in Golf Digest. Tom Callahan, by the way, has written an unbelievably good book in the past about Woods and his father Earl. But on his comeback, something Ernie said 7 years ago, unlike almost everything that has been said since, has stayed true, said Tom Callahan. So he asked Ernie Els, what will Woods do in the Masters? And this is Woods coming back to the Masters after the fire hydrant and the scandal, and he's on the front page everywhere for weeks on end. So he says, what will Woods do in the Masters on his comeback? And Ernie Els says he'll contend, and Callahan says, really? And Ernie Els says, yeah, he'll be 5th, and it turned out he was 4th. But win it, Ernie said, no chance. And Tom Callahan, the journalist, says to Ernie, if he can finish 5th, he can win it. And then Els says, a pretty remarkable quote, no, there's a guilt. There's a conscience. You can't play your best without self-respect. I don't know what's going to happen from here on out, but I know one thing, it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. It's like, woof.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've actually always had the same opinion on Woods since his fall from grace. Like, if you've got a family and kids, like, that's nearly all that matters, and all of a sudden they don't like you anymore because of what you've done. Like, how can you ever make peace with yourself and be able to focus on what you have to do on the course? And that's it summed up actually really well there, because that's always been since it happened, that he's never going to be able to come back. There isn't going to be a happy ending from this. He's ruined his life, and like, he's never going to be able to get back to. He's never going to be able to go back to where he was, because he can't get back what he had.
It's an interesting one. It's a really, there's some, like, as Paul does, he takes out some really good quotes,
great
and
stuff
really, gets down to the nub of the issue. And he's talking about, you touched on it there, Joe, his relationship with Michael Jordan.
That was
really
interesting.
The two of them were basic AHOLES.
Yeah.
And the stuff in Vegas, how they're bad tippers, and how, this was just the way Woods was. And I think it's Brandel Chambly then who's talking about it later, even his dealings with the press and where he wasn't very nice, and his dealings with John Feinstein when Feinstein was doing a season on the brink, or whatever the book was at that stage. And if Tiger Woods had just said, you know what, guys, I'm like this times, I'm the best golfer in the world, sometimes I don't get this stuff right, I know it could be a bit curt or harsh or whatever, sorry about that, but this is what I need to do to be who I am at the moment. And that struck with me, that people would kind of go, well, okay, he's not the nicest guy in the world, but look at the results he's getting. He's doing something extraordinary here that we've never seen before. And if Woods had just been able to dial himself back that little bit with people and say, look, I accept I'm not, the nice guy that you want to call around for dinner, but this is what I need to do. This is who I need to be the golfer I can be. And then at the end of it as well, is it Chambly again, that last quote, Joe?
Yeah.
Down at the bottom.
It is, yeah. Chambly's a former player, works as a Golf Channel analyst now. He's really good.
And he's talking about, people think I don't like Tiger Woods or I don't root for him. He says, I am rooting for him despite myself, because we all wanted him to, get that extra 5 or 10 majors and go from extraordinary to actual, just out of this universe. Yeah. We all wanted to see that. We all knew the kind of guy he was. And that's the tragedy, really, if tragedy is a strong word, but the golfing tragedy in this, that guy who went over the summit and you thought, he's going out of sight here, and it just didn't happen. And from a pure sporting perspective, that is, it's like, oh my God, what have we all missed out on from a golfing perspective?
They take the headline from the Chambly quote, which is basically, I wanted to see him finish, I wanted to see where he was going to go. He was going to win 25 majors, but life got in the way.
But at what stage do we accept that this is it? Like, when can we accept that there isn't going to be a comeback, there isn't going to be a happy ending, there isn't going to be any majors?
I now think he will win another major.
Well, what is he? Is he 42?
42. I think he may win 2 now, actually, because he's just got his speed back and his body's back.
What age was Nicklaus when he won? Was he 46?
Yeah, Phil Mickelson's 47.
Yeah.
So
Tom Watson was in contention to win an Open.
At 59, yeah.
It's in golf, it's never over.
The one thing that giving me pause for thought is that Ernie Els quote about the guilt.
Yeah.
Really interesting. But I mean, physically he could. I mean, maybe there's some unresolved psychological issues for Woods still post the fallout. I mean, it was. Can you even imagine the scale of the embarrassment, like the humiliation?
Yeah.
It's just the disappointing his family. Like, that's what would really, really resonate with me. Like, the fact that he has to live with that every single day of his life. That, like, you know, his wife was dragged into it, his kids were dragged into it. Like, that's just devastating, and like, it clearly affected him.
It must have, or else you're a complete sociopath. You can't just shrug that off.
There is, but then as well, I mean, time is a healer and all that, and you look at the disjointed nature of his career with the injuries since all the fire hydrant thing happened and everything that happened in between. Like, what's his longest run of tournaments played without injury?
People forget. The one thing that makes me wonder about the conscience is people forget in 2013, so this is 3 years after the fire hydrant stuff, he won 5 times on tour and should have won the Masters. He hit the flagpole on 15 and came back into the water. Adam Scott won that year. He would have won that Masters. So 2013 he did win 5 times. Like, his conscience wasn't at him then.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm in two minds. And he does seem to have repaired his relationship with his kids, and even his wife, ex-wife Ellen, has released statements saying, look, he's turned it around. Yeah.
But like, time is a great healer, but that mugshot wasn't that long ago.
Well, that's true. That's a very fair point. Yeah. It's hard to forget that mugshot when you see it.
Yeah. The sad eyes.
That's Tom Callahan, who wrote that book, was talking about when Woods was 4, he was dropped off at his Earl's oldest sister. It was unbelievable. Hattie Bell raised the siblings after parents died, and they promised they would look after Tiger when Earl and Tita went off for the day. And the moment they were out of sight, she picked up Tiger and said, they don't hold him enough.
Yeah, that's so
Look
sad.
at those sad eyes, she said, which is an arresting enough quote. And Tom Callan says he always, when he saw the mugshot, he thought of the sad eyes, which she mentioned in his childhood. It's very, like, who knows what's going on. Sometimes I think Woods maybe is incredibly damaged. Other times I think,
I just think like, I mean, you mentioned 2013. If he gets a run of tournaments, pain free, back free, what is he capable of? He's 42 years of age in a sport that you can have a long career and you can
pretty
contend.
fit 42. Yeah,
you know.
But you also have like a lot of young players coming through.
Well, that's true.
Well.
Who
So it's not
really
the same as it was 10, 15 years ago. Like, the landscape has changed in terms of the quality of players coming through too.
One last quote, because I think it's worth just reading the full piece. It's very hard to do it justice here, from the new biography of Woods, which is out at the moment, and talking about the Jordan-Tiger Woods friendship. It seems Woods really was almost like beholden to Jordan when he first hit fame. In the words of one Vegas insider, Jordan was a complete effing asshole. But they say nobody ever talked about Michael, nobody ever told on Michael, everybody was scared of Michael, and Tiger learned from this, which is kind of a chilling thought when you see subsequent behaviour.
But you see, also, Joe, we didn't have social media back then. You know, there wasn't camera phones everywhere. Like, his behaviour would have been exposed if he was doing it in today's society, when you can't turn around without somebody having a camera phone or tweeting about what you've said or what you've done. So I think he probably got away with a lot that he wouldn't get away with now. So I'm sure
probably true, yeah. So well, that's Woods. I mean, it's going to be so fascinating to see what happens, and that is definitely worth checking out. Page 8 and 9 is really good Masters coverage in Sunday Independent.
But Joe, I'd love to have read a big piece on Patrick Reed today.
Yeah, it's a great point.
I know it's very difficult when it's like the Saturday and you're heading into the Sunday and the last round, but it would have been great to just get a bit of insight into someone who's a fascinating character whom we're going to be sitting down to watch for hours and hours this evening, that, you know, we can have a little bit more insight into the player, into the man, into his background, because like you mentioned some of the things earlier about his past, like it's, you know, it's quite a coloured one as well.
I know, and even I know the sketches, like estranged from his parents since 2011. His sister put up a really sad blog a couple of years ago saying how he seems to think we want his money. We don't. We just want him back in our life. He seems to. I mean, you'd love to hear both sides. He's never spoken about it. But
the book that was published, kind of detailing the incidents that he had in college, with the clubs going missing, with money going missing, with, you know, hitting other people's balls, with you know, like writing down wrong scores, like, I mean, allegedly, yeah. I think one of the coaches from the college did come out and say that, like, you know, we stand over these claims in that book, and we don't support Patrick as a person. So, like, there does seem to be an awful lot of substance.
Practices alone still. He's he's a real loner, outsider. He had a sister removed from the US Open when she turned up to try and talk to him.
Yeah, that's not normal behaviour. Like,
so that's why you would love a really good Patrick Reed piece.
Absolutely,
it's very
and then
hard to turn around.
Because then you can kind of make a bit of an informed decision on him as a character, as well.
If he wins, we'll read plenty about him in the next week.
That's true. Yeah,
that's the way of it.
But we want it now.
I know, want it yesterday. Any other Masters stuff?
Yeah, just on that. I mean, you touched on it earlier, Joe. We were listening to you outside about the stubborn nature of Reed, and how he's clearly a guy it's his own mind.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the theme theme that David Walsh has done on his comment piece on the back of the Sunday Times about personal responsibility, and I think it's something that we just gets under everybody's skin listening to golfers now. Is Ricky Fowler again over the weekend talking about how we hit a great shot, and it just does your nutting.
It is. It's all about the team.
It just does your nutting, and that's mentioned here, and David Walsh quotes Nicklaus and Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player talking about how you need to be your own mind, you know, and
do we buy what they're saying, or is this back in my day talk?
There's an element of that.
McIlroy having to take more responsibility for his game because he doesn't have an experienced caddy now, and that seems to be benefiting him.
Yeah, so that's an interesting angle on it, which I hadn't kind of put that two and two together. But there's a great lead in. He uses anonymous names for the caddy and player in question 15 years ago, coming up to the 18th. The player had the option of hitting a long iron, I think a 2-iron, to get to the green to win the tournament or to lay up and secure a playoff, and the player in question took out the wedge, and his caddy said, what are you doing? Are you a man or a mouse? And the player stops and looks at him, what do you mean? You got a chance to win this tournament, man. And the caddy admits later on, all I was thinking of at that point was the winner's check. I wanted the winner's check. It was £200,000. A tenth of that is 20 grand at the time. That's big money back in the day, and it's a good lead in by David to show kind of that relationship between, you know, the team of we as we have it now, and the need for the golfer to be your own man and take personal responsibility. And like Marie says, then that feeds into McIlroy. Is his upsurge partly to do with that? I've nobody to blame anymore. This is all on me, and it's me and me and me.
And the responsibility is sorely on him. But he quotes Nicklaus here, and he says, every time I see a tennis match, the winner goes, I want to thank my team. What shot did they hit for you? You've got to play your own shots. I always thought that's the fun part. That's playing the game. I don't know how you can have fun when there's 10 people telling you what to do. So again, that's kind of another insight into the winning
there is a touch of the in my day. Just when you were reading it there now, I didn't get it reading it myself. But
I think it's a culture now of professional sport as well, though, when like, you know, you share everything, like, and you've got so many people that if you don't thank everybody that's, you know, giving you the right food and coached you, that you're seen as being somebody maybe that isn't likeable because it's all about you and you're self-centered. And I think Reid seems to be the type of person that, you know, wouldn't be thanking his team afterwards. He'd be more of the taking responsibility and taking the glory and everything that goes with it.
They mentioned in that piece as well, or David, I think it's David talking himself about, you know, golfers are unique. Or was that in the Tiger Woods piece? Golfers are unique.
This is Woods piece.
You know,
they're their own CEOs.
They've nobody telling them what to do. There's nobody saying you need to be on a bus at such a time. They're notoriously late. You know, everything is on you.
They keep their own schedule.
Maybe there's something about that in a golfer then, that there's a comfort in, it's you and me out there, buddy. We're doing this together. Maybe there's something in that.
We hear about the loneliness of individual sports all the time and how difficult, you know, athletes have it and tennis players and that. And like, I suppose for people that do want that team element, then you can bring your caddy in as much as you want to.
Because the overall point of the Walsh piece is the headline, Rory McIlroy's making his own decisions and it's paying off. Ask the sages, they'll tell you if Tiger Woods has done the same, he'd have 20 majors. And they're like players saying like Tiger Woods won the US Open by 15 shots and then he's having a lesson from a pro. It's not like what the hell. And Walsh has dug up that famous Ben Hogan quote where someone asked Hogan, who's your coach? And Hogan said, if I can find somebody who can beat me, I'll have a lesson. But it is, I don't know, I find that a touch back in my day. I get a coach. Let's move on, because otherwise we'll spend the whole time on the golf. So Conor McGregor, he tried to say without drawing rolling of eyes. Marie Crowe has come in this morning and said, not interested in this at all, and yet is more on top of this story than Brendan and I put together. Has all the quotes. It's not really in any of the sports pages. There is no, I don't know, is it because people don't believe what happened is genuine, but there is no what's happening with Conor McGregor column piece.
Nobody is analysing it.
No. So you're sceptical, are you? I must say, I thought it was a genuine thing. I thought, well, you don't get arrested, but you think this is WWE territory.
I think it's drifted into that anyway. I think there's definitely an element of some sort of a pre-planned decision to have a bit of an incident to create some publicity, and whether it went too far or not, I'm not sure. Like, obviously only the people involved will know, but I'm just a little bit unsure. Like, it's all very convenient the way it's unfolded, with the cameras been there, with the, you know, at the right moment. getting the right quotes, getting the right action, the way they released it, as an embedded video, the UFC, a moment in time that'll never be forgotten. Well, it would be if you hadn't had the cameras there, so and like they're just, I don't know, I didn't know that the UFC was on this weekend. Well, I knew it was coming up, but I wasn't sure it was. But like now even my mum knows that it's on. Like it's just all kind of fallen in a way. But again, like,
it must have went too far though. They couldn't
he's
have planned to have him arrested.
You don't dice with the US legal system. I mean, we all have anecdotal stories of being.
Do you not watch Judge Judy?
Do we all have anecdotal stories? No. Tell yours there.
A J1 or something.
All-Star Tours.
A J1 or something.
What did you do?
I was never on a J1. Just let me say that. J1 stories of guys going out, having a few beers, literally going into the bushes to.
Yeah, I have heard stories like that.
You end up in handcuffs. That's the US.
Team GA holidays. You do hear an awful lot about them.
Wasn't anything as bad as you thought, Joe. Just nothing as bad. Yeah, exactly. But you don't. It's clearly whatever the genesis of this was. It's clearly gone off the rails, to use that phrase.
People as well
totally.
At that level, like they're not aware of consequences. Like they don't have the same understanding of the consequences that we would have, because they're operating in a bubble and it's like on a completely different level. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because I think that'll give us a bit of a clearer picture on how much of it has gone the way that they exactly wanted it to go. Like how much, will he end up getting banned from going to America? Like, will he end up not being kicked out of the UFC? Like, will any of these things happen? Will there be any consequences? Because if there is no consequences at the end of this, then I firmly believe that it was all just done. Because people will do anything. They'll do absolutely anything.
The consequences of this for McGregor, if he doesn't end up with a custodial sentence, which I don't know, I don't think he will, they're all good for him. And they're all good for the UFC.
Fight,
This gives him a redemption story coming back. It gives him a way back into the UFC.
Gives them a narrative.
Gives the UFC, like you say, Marie, even our parents know it's on this weekend. And the piece in the Sunday Independent in the news section that Donald Lynch has, it's just one paragraph. After pictures of him in handcuffs went around the world, Google searches for McGregor and the UFC itself peaked again. Both trended on Twitter and were front and centre in news bulletins around the world. And that's the bottom line.
Like his manager has commented, his mum and dad have commented, Dana White is non-stop commenting. Like everybody is capitalising on it, and we're here talking about it. We're part of the problem.
Well,
you're the one who keeps talking.
You're the problem. Donald Lynch in that Sunday Independent news piece, we won't really have time to delve into it, and it's probably not something we're qualified in some ways to talk about. You feel like I feel like at the moment there's so much talk about gender, and there are so many people unqualified making very grand claims. They're the same people on the same shows all the time, and it's all about gender all the time. But he does, Donald Lynch, raise the point. With his pimp attitude and punk mouth, the criminal man is like the embodiment of the male id. The male id, rather. He represents everything we are constantly told we should be educating out of our young boys, and yet he remains their most compelling and mouthiest anti-hero. He says later on, in a world of castrated, domesticated men and well-behaved, biddable sports stars, McGregor is one of the last beacons of messy, instinctual masculinity. And it's because of that, rather than in spite of it, that so many young men look up to him. It's kind of an interesting thought. But he does also, Donald Lynch, talk about the fact that this is a perfect Lazarus story now. And
totally.
The whole narrative is there. So you're sceptical. I must say I believed it. Largely, I thought, but maybe it went too far.
Like Dana White said, they didn't know that he was going to be there. Like, I mean, how is any of that? It
seems he hopped on a jet and just because someone said something to one of his training partners.
And nobody knew he was going to be there. Like, I mean, it's a really controlled environment with cameras everywhere. Like, did nobody text anybody? Was there no WhatsApp groups? Like,
but did nobody get let him in the back door or something?
Yeah, and happened to have the cameras rolling at the same time.
You're painting a good picture now, in fairness.
Yeah, okay.
And like even the fact that they were worried that they, that like UFC would be banned from New York, they're not disassociating themselves with it, the UFC, with what happened. They're using it as promotional tools, so they're not worried about that.
Okay, right, let's squeeze in last pieces because we are bringing you live coverage of Arsenal against Southampton very shortly. Marie, you were writing about, it's on the front page as well, the mighty Quinn, and the theme is in relation to the Irish women's football team. What a difference a year makes.
Yeah,
basically they're in good shape. They're in with a sniff of qualification.
They're playing the Netherlands on Tuesday, and it's a massive game. They've already drawn with them. It's a really big time, an important time for women's football in Ireland. It's a year on from when they stood up that day in Liberty Hall, the day that we all remember, and they've put their money where their mouths are. They've got on with it. They have, they wanted things like access to gym memberships, to home-based training sessions. They have a professional coach, and like surprise, surprise, it's all working. Like they're playing really well.
Yeah.
We were speaking about it earlier, and unfortunately there isn't, I'm always banging on about it, but there isn't any coverage of the team in any of the Sunday papers except for that Sunday Independent article that I wrote, and
which isn't a big piece either.
No, it's not, and like it kind of beggars belief.
Well, I was saying to Marie earlier, I was amazed, like going to buy the papers this morning, you know, I knew it was coming on here and I was thinking what's going to be in. Okay, there's going to be Masters, there's going to be, you know, Premier League and Hurling League final, and I fully expected every Irish newspaper to have something on it, you know, the usual suspects to have something on it. I'm flabbergasted by it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at the weekend we have. The Masters, without the Masters, this would be a very, very quiet weekend. I mean, the hurling final has gone under the radar. There's rugby. I mean, Munster in South Africa, Leinster played Zebra. You know, so even the rugby, which has just dominated the headlines for a couple of months, that's on a bit of a pause. It's not a huge sporting weekend. There was focus there, or there was space there for what is the biggest game in the Republic of Ireland women's team's history.
Yeah.
It's at home, it's in Tala against a 7th-ranked team in the world.
Yeah, the
a
European
few days
champions.
after they just played.
The redemption story is there from 12 months ago. As you said, Marie, there's access there.
Yeah.
All it takes is a phone call, and we've constantly...
The FAI were so accommodating, you could have spoken to any
constantly
player.
banged on about this. Access, and yet here's the team, and a great story individually and collectively.
Yeah.
And
girls playing at the top level, you know.
Nothing on it.
Like,
because Louise Quinn does play for Arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we're guilty of it. I don't know if we've covered it this week, and they played Slovakia during the week. Did we?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Sorry, Will O'Callaghan was
there.
at the game.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it is a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Everybody should be ashamed.
Yeah, he was giving interviews afterwards.
It seems like a missed opportunity. Like, I mean, it's a good story as well. You know, it's I don't know.
And like they're playing the European champions. It's not like they're playing, you know, a team that are ranked like 65th in the world. Like, you know, they're playing a team that are selling out stadiums. Like they had 32,000 at their game.
The Netherlands did. Yeah, I saw that.
Day,
they're getting huge crowds. I think there were 3,500 at Tala the other night,
which is a record, isn't it?
Yeah, it was 5 o'clock on a Friday evening. You know,
right.
like
you would think the Netherlands, if they're European champions and this team are in with the chance of qualifying for the World Cup, you could get to 4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah, they're definitely expecting
with the right marketing.
Crowd,
I suppose is the thing.
Yeah,
the fact that it's a year on from Liberty Hall and that was a huge story. You would think there was definitely a piece in a year on.
And
sit down.
You know, and I've noticed that even in the daily newspapers that you know the main soccer writers are covering the women's beat a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be freelancers who were doing a really good job and still are. But to see your staff soccer writer, you know, constantly cropping up at these press conferences and giving it, you know, page leads and everything, which is probably why I woke up this morning thinking there's going to be a couple of good feature pieces in this. And apart from Marie's, I was like, where are they? Yeah, I just found it very,
like
very
now it did clash with the League of Ireland on Friday night, but like I thought maybe it might take precedence over some of the, you know, the League of Ireland games that lads would generally go to cover, but there wasn't too many people in the press box anyway on Friday night.
Before we wrap up, there's double header, Camogie final and League final at Nolan Park, and Kilkenny Tip has just been the rivalry which has defined a decade. There's various people finding different ways to write about it. Michael Dignan certainly has. You both actually thought that Dermot Crowe had a really interesting way of
because it's quite a hard one to cover when you're covering it like year after year after year, and it's the same kind of narrative. But the sideline cut, which is something that we have started to look at because of Ronan Maher. Like Dermot Crowe dissected it and went back through a history of it and who was good at it and when they were good at it. And
I didn't know Christy Ring was a really good sideline.
There you go. No footage of him. So I mean, in fairness to Leo McGough, who's got this, how has he got these stats? I mean, how is the man not employed by the GA, or has he been offered employment by the GA?
He's a GA statistician.
But I mean, these are the kind of gems that would be lost only for the work of one or two good people around the country. To have this stat is phenomenal.
Yeah. Christy Ring apparently was a perfectionist when it came to the sideline cut, but he only scored twice from line balls in the championship. Balls were heavier and wasn't the done thing. Joe Canning's the record holder for championship sideline points with 15. I would have no idea that, to be honest.
And there was a really good guy from Clare in the 70s as well. Is it Mick Maroney? I don't have the piece on me here, but it's he was from Crusheen again. Like, I'm from Clare, I didn't know that, I had no idea. And even Dermot has a line from a song that was around back in that time as well, and they bring in Colm Honan, who's Derek's dad, who was a great hurler and won an All-Star back then. Like, these are things that, you know, they're new stories, it's a new angle, it's a different way of covering it. And
Crowe's overall point in this piece is that Tipperary let Maher have a go, but Kilkenny
Yes.
don't really go for sideline
Yeah.
cuts. Is the point? Kilkenny are well down the
11th or something on the list. Yeah,
11th.
Yeah.
Are they? Yeah. So it seems like it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Kilkenny keep the ball in play, move it closer to goal. Is their attitude to it?
Yeah.
Whereas Maher, it's kind of, why not have a go?
Yeah, and I suppose like if somebody does pull off like an unbelievable score, it does give a team a lift. So maybe there is a little bit of a thought about that as well. Like it'll give you that little extra boost if there's a bit of a lull. But it was interesting as well. He spoke to his uncle, which is like again when you're trying to Ronan Maher's uncle, when you're trying to find an angle, like just being able to, I suppose, dig a little bit deeper and to go with something different.
Yeah, and just on that, we were talking earlier, a lot of the pieces on the Tip Kilkenny game, because you say, Joe, it's a 10-year rivalry, what else is there to write about it? And it struck me that James O'Connor's piece and Michael Duignan's are very much match specific. Where have they come from? Who's playing in their ranks? How the teams have changed in the last 18 months? You know, the new players, the style of play. It's very meat and veg, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
It's telling you, because we've just talked about how under the radar really for a lot of us.
Kenny especially,
Exactly. So there's a piece, is it in the Mail, did we see, Marie, with
the Sunday World,
Sean Goldrick's in the Sunday World about
it's really handy, and I'm going to take this home with me now because
all the new players, a little bio on each of them, and it's just
great.
It's probably the best way to approach that game, which is
because they've used so many players between the teams, and there's new people coming on, and it's been such a busy league, and you know, just trying to stay on top of everything that you know, you're not going to know exactly where Enda Morrissey came from and what school he went, and you know, if he was a late developer or not, and you know, little things like that will kind of set us up for championship when these people are going to be around, and we need to know about them.
There's lots of nuggets. Duignan's just going for Tipperary.
Mixed views when people tipping, you know, nobody really knows, you know, which way will it go, left or right.
We are out of time all too quickly. We've got a game to get to at the Emirates. My thanks to Marie Crowe and Brendan O'Brien. Thanks a million, guys, for being with us. We'll be back with Nathan Murphy and Ray Houghton in just a second.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
You thought you'd need to shop around to get the best long-term savings on gas and electricity. But then you remembered you're with Electric Ireland and nearly 1 million other people who are getting the best savings on gas and electricity every year. So if you're not already with us, sign up online today. Search electricireland.com